Welcome into the Detroit Lions 2024 schedule release video presented by Ticketmaster. I'm Dannie Rogers, and we are moments away from finding out how many primetime games Detroit will have in the 2024 season. One Pride Productions has enlisted some Detroit natives, some familiar faces to help release this schedule. Plus, DetroitLions.com senior writer Tim Twentyman will join me later in the show to break down this schedule. First up, PFF NFL lead analyst Sam Monson is joining me here because we have to talk about Detroit Lions offseason. First up, reports surfacing that quarterback Jared Goff has signed his extension with the Detroit Lions. Sam, why was it so integral to get QB1 JG back here with the Detroit Lions and extended in terms of what Detroit wants to do moving forward?
Yeah, and obviously not just Goff, but the moves that they've made before that with Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown, getting these guys locked up. They are basically going down the checklist and going, who are the most important players on this roster at the most important positions? Let's get them locked in, locked down long term, and keep this nucleus together, and then construct the rest of the roster around those guys. And they're ticking those positions off perfectly. I mean, they've got a franchise offensive tackle, they've got their best wide receiver, and now their quarterback locked up long term. And it absolutely answers any idea of what that contract was going to look like for Jared Goff. Were they going to try and do something creative, try and find some kind of middle tier, middle class of quarterback contract? But no, they said Jared Goff last year played like an all-pro level for the majority of the season. So we're going to give him the kind of contract that reflects that. And we know within this offense, with the guys around him, with Ben Johnson calling the plays, he can play as well as any quarterback in the NFL.
So the foundation for the offense is set. You take a look at the other side of the ball. You've got Aiden Hutchinson and Aleem McNeil up there up front. Those are foundational players. But you take a look at this past draft in the rookie class, Detroit said, hey, we need to go get some foundational players for the secondary. So here you go. Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, two top draft picks for Detroit Lions, both cornerbacks. How quickly do you anticipate specifically those two rookies being able to impact this Detroit defense off the bat?
I mean, Terrion Arnold, I think, is a fantastic player. You watch his tape and you see an absolutely ridiculous ability to move around, mirror receivers, play man coverage, essentially. His skill set when it comes to movement and hip fluidity and all those kinds of things you hear scouts talk about is as good as anybody that's come into the league in years. And I think it's a great example of how you never know how the draft is going to go. He was the consensus number one or number two corner, depending on where you look. And was expected to be long gone by the time Detroit's pick rolled around. I don't imagine there was a scenario when they were, war gaming out at the draft where they ever considered that Arnold would fall within reach of their draft pick. And instead, that's exactly what happens. They go and get him and bring in a guy like that. But this is such a well-run organization now. They know that you can't just rely on somebody, one player, to come in and fill a position and be the answer, even if that one player is somebody that you think is an incredible prospect and potentially a blue chip defensive prospect in this draft. So they double up. They get the insurance policy and bring in a guy like Rakestraw in the next round as well, just in case, they're not right when it comes to Arnold. But, I think Arnold is a genuinely special prospect and should be able to step in and play and be an impact playmaker really day one. And then they have that insurance policy in Rakestraw, who could also, develop and potentially find his way into the lineup as well.
No doubt Terrion Arnold is going to have some welcome to the NFL moments, probably in primetime games on really big stages. So the schedule release, we are moments away from Detroit releasing theirs. Sam, which games are you highly anticipating in matchups for these Detroit Lions for the 2024 season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a tough schedule for Detroit. They're going to have one of the more difficult schedules out there. Honestly, you don't need to go beyond the division for some really interesting games for Detroit. Those Green Bay games, I think, are going to be fascinating because the Packers finished last season playing incredible football with the youngest roster in the NFL. If they've taken a step forward in the offseason in terms of just development and getting a year older together, they're going to be hot on Detroit's heels. And Chicago and Minnesota probably aren't going to be any joke either with the upgrades that they've made over the offseason. So really, any of those NFC North games are going to be fun to watch.
The NFC North is certainly heating up. A big thank you to Sam for joining us on the show here today. Now the moment everyone has been waiting for. One Pride Productions enlisted the help of some Detroit natives to help with the schedule release. So without further ado, here is your 2024 Detroit Lions schedule release video.
Hi, I'm Tim.
I'm Sam.
We're the advertising team the Lions hired to release the schedule.
So then we said, well, we've got a lot of great ideas for that.
A lot of the ideas they just were like, no.
Some of them they said, these are dangerous. Let's say we were met with pushback.
A lot of pushback, a lot of hurt feelings. I think it would be a big mistake if we didn't say them out loud just to get some reassurance.
Just to get them off of our chest.
We are going to do an attack ad on Fanatics because they leaked the jersey before it came out. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
That's not yours to give out. Then we're going to dox them, say where the owner lives and where the second in command lives. They said that's not good. They said that's mean.
And they said it was like dangerous.
It's like illegal or something, whatever. It's like, shh.
Yeah, sure. Then we said, well, how about we have a little talk with the referees of the Dallas game?
Just a little talk.
Just a little talk.
First commercial to have swears in it. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun, but we were going to do
Yeah.
At the very least, people would go, what the hell did that just say?
Then we came up with the idea of like, when we built this machine, the Liontron 2000. And so like the idea of it is that it like turns on and then you,
yeah, we don't really know.
You put a hot dog in there and somehow it disappears.
A hot dog that size, motherfucker. Oh.
It's not supposed to do that.
Is it not? Oh, it's cold. Whatever's coming out of there is cold.
Did you put some in this?
I didn't put smoke in it. We just glued a bunch of to a box.
The fire department came by and said, stop.
Everybody's telling us to stop doing what we're trying to do.
You could use this and then say, Lionatron 2000, what's the schedule look like? And you gotta be the Lionatron 2000.
I don't know. What do you want me to do? Do a voice from it?
Be a robot. Can we talk about this in the back? I don't understand why you're trying to undermine. They said no. They said, what is it? What does it do? We said, we don't know.
But you said no to everything, so what do you expect us to do? The Lions have said, hey, how about we just release the list just without any attacking people?
That's your idea.
Yeah, they loved it because it's their idea. So without any further ado,
here's the
schedule.
Here's the schedule. These are the teams. Look at this. That's gonna be a good game.
It's gonna be a great one.
That one's gonna be fun.
Great job, Mike North.
Yeah, Mike North. What a great schedule.
Go Lions, they're gonna win all these.
They're gonna win all these. These are all, check them off as wins.
How are they scrolling in? Are they coming
in from the top down, up from the bottom up?
Side?
Do me a favor, do one that zigs.
Yeah, do a silly one. Have a silly one that bounces all around.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Why'd you try to get me to do a robot voice?
Because I thought you'd be amazing at it. Let's do one that comes in like this.
One team comes from here.
Then we'll look at it like this.
Here, start.
Okay.
Do one that starts this small and then gets as big as the screen.
Yeah, one that I'm holding in my hand right here.
Oh, I want.
I'm doing it already. No, even if he's holding his hand, just do it on my hand.
All right, fine. Do one that is holding it in my hand.
No, that's the same. Do one that's coming out of your mouth.
Thanks for giving me that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do the robot voice.
I'm not doing the robot voice. Have one that is in robot font.
This one's Thanksgiving.
Right after the parade.
The old turkey if you win. So we'll be eating turkey. That's too slow.
There's so much stuff we've done that they can make us look
dumb.
There's the last game.
There it is.
Well, not the last game.
No, that's not the last game. That's the last of the regular season game. We'll see you after.
Yeah, oh yeah. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for believing.
Go Lions.
Go Lions.
I was really nervous. That was bad.
Yeah, no, I think it was good.
I think you were good. I think I was
Thank
bad.
you. I know I was good. But I think you did okay too.
That's nice of you to say.
Yeah. Kind of lying. Don't cry.
Well, I'm not actually crying.
I'm just trying to bust your balls like the Rat Pack did.
Oh my God, yes, I'm Joey Bishop.
Yep. I don't know any of those guys.
You don't know the Rat Pack?
No.
Dude, come to my house right now. I'm about to show you everything they've ever done. Watch up. Whoop. There you go.
Thanks, pal.
Shout out to the One Pride Productions crew for another iconic schedule
They
release
do a good
video.
job every year with those
They
things.
do a great job, and it's a very quick turnaround. So shout out to the crew. I'm now welcoming in Detroit Lions senior writer Twentyman. In case you needed some help with the math for the folks who just watched that video, there are 6 primetime games. That does not include Thanksgiving. So 7, I like to call Thanksgiving primetime. I know not everyone does. So there's gonna be 7 big matchups there on that Detroit Lions schedule. 1 more primetime game than they got last year.
Well, they were a hot ticket at the end of last year. They were America's team, right? And obviously with all the momentum going into this year, them now being a favorite and the run that they had last year, not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. So let's get to this schedule. We're gonna break it down 6 games at a time, kicking off week 1. Nothing is bigger than that Thursday night season opener with Ravens Baltimore. Then Sunday Night Football, which Detroit Lions will welcome in Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams back to Ford Field. That is a matchup that is always highly anticipated. And then another playoff opponent from last year will come to Ford Field, Tampa Bay, week 2. That's a 1 p.m. kick. And then Detroit goes on the road for week 3 at Arizona Cardinals. That's a 4:25 kick. Week 4 at home, they come on back. They face those Seattle Seahawks. Monday Night Football, Tim. And then you have the bye week. But then they're gonna go on the road to Dallas Cowboys for week 6. So that's a big first 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, 2 primetime matchups in there, plus the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, 3 playoff opponents in there too. And I think the one thing you have to love if you're Detroit is week 1 and week 2 at home. So it gives you an opportunity to get in front of the home crowd. You know, obviously get off to a great start. 3 of your first 4 at home. I think you love that. And the one thing that you look at that stretch and say, ugh, is that week 5 bye. Yeah,
A little early.
they've been a little spoiled the last couple years, having it right in the middle. You talk to any player, any coach, they love that week 8, week 9, right in the center bye.
It's usually my birthday weekend.
Splits up the season, but look, if you have some early injuries, that can obviously help, but it's going to be a long stretch week 16 to week 18 where you've got a game every week.
Oh yeah, you're touching on it. That stretch after the bye week. We lumped Dallas Cowboys into there, but we'll go with week 7.
Yeah.
They'll go on the road to the Minnesota Vikings, 1 p.m. kick. Back home against the Titans, another 1 p.m. slate, and then they go on the road for 2 big matchups. Week 9 at Green Bay. That's Sunday at 4:25, and then they go to the Houston Texans, who have loaded up probably more than any other team in free agency this past offseason. That is going to be Sunday Night Football in Houston. That is going to be a big one. Then they come home for Jacksonville. That's a 1 p.m. kick, and then week 12, Indianapolis Colts on the road, another 1 p.m. kick. So I mean, I'm looking at, gosh, Houston Texans in that stretch, Green Bay Packers, who knows? Jags?
That Houston game's going to be really fun because to me, they're 2 very similar teams, right? People maybe didn't expect them to make the runs that they made. Obviously, Houston with C.J. Stroud and a rookie quarterback. And like you mentioned, they made a ton of improvements. They're one of those teams I think are that sleeper team in the AFC.
I don't know if you can sleep on them.
Everybody talks about, Kansas City, obviously, and Baltimore. But I think that Houston team is going to be right there. And I think that's going to be a huge matchup. And obviously, the thing that stands out there is you come off that week 5 bye, 4 of your next 5 on the road. That's a tough stretch. Week 6 to week 10, and you've got Dallas, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Houston in that stretch. That to me is going to be the meat of the season. That's going to be the important stretch right there.
And I think that's when the bodies maybe start feeling it a little bit more.
Yeah.
There is no time off.
No.
Or time off in that stretch. That is going to be a really big one. All right, let's round out the last third of this schedule. The next 3, after you're on the road for, you just mentioned it, 4 out of your 5, they're going to be home for weeks 13, 14, 15 inside Ford Field. So kicking it off, Chicago Bears, Thursday, Thanksgiving. I mean, what else did we expect? NFC North opponent coming in. That'll be back-to-back NFC North opponents, by the way. Green Bay will be at home the following Thursday. So it's not that long Thanksgiving weekend we're used to.
No.
Detroit's going to have to ramp it back up and get back into football fashion.
But then you get it the following week. So, you get the long weekend, just one weekend after Thanksgiving as you prepare for Buffalo, and you actually get an extra, few little, minutes there with Buffalo being a later game.
Yes,
so.
Exactly. So Buffalo, 4:25. That'll be a really good one. I'm really intrigued to see that one too. And then rounding out this schedule, they'll go on the road for week 16 and 17 at Chicago. It's a 1 p.m. kick. And then, oh boy, San Francisco. Monday Night Football. This is the rematch a lot of people are waiting for.
That's the NFC Championship rematch, at their place. And something tells me Dan Campbell, these Lions will be very up for a game that for 30 minutes, they had control of, and unfortunately all three phases decided to play their worst half of football at the same time, and that's why Detroit wasn't in the Super Bowl, and they'll certainly want to rectify that situation this year, and they'll have a chance to do that week 17 on the road in front of the national stage.
Could it repeat, a few weeks later? I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, that you look at when you play those kinds of opponents late.
Within the NFC,
Yeah. I mean, it obviously happened with Tampa last year. You played them, but that was a little bit earlier. But that'll be interesting if you get a week 17 and then all of a sudden your first or second weekend, you get to see that opponent right again.
This will be a good one.
And then ending at home, I think is great as well.
Minnesota, TBD, could be another primetime game. Yeah,
that stretch with Thanksgiving, Green Bay, and Buffalo all at home. I think that's an important stretch because you've got the short turnover there from, on the road to Indianapolis the week, then Chicago. You don't get the weekend off like we talked about, but you still get a full week, and then you get a long break before an important Buffalo game. So a nice little stretch of 3 home games there, I think, is key as well. And you always want to end at home.
I agree. Yeah, so last year, Detroit opens up the entire NFL season with the reigning Super Bowl champs, Kansas City. KC will get that nod again this year, but that Sunday Night Football, week 1, that really captures my attention. Mainly because of Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams coming back. I'm sure they would like to, get a little revenge.
Something tells me there'll be a few Jared Goff chants maybe rolling around Ford Field.
There are Jared Goff chants down the street for Tigers games. So, I think you're 100% right. But what game?
But just the atmosphere and how fun that will be, nationally televised against a playoff opponent. It's gonna, and it's gonna be fun. The one I'm looking forward to, we talked about it a little bit, but that Week 17 matchup, on national TV against San Francisco. To me, they're one of those teams. I think you've got San Francisco, Philadelphia, Detroit right there in terms of the top teams in the NFC, and so you get 2 of the top teams. Week 17 could have huge playoff implications on a national stage. That to me is a fun one.
Stressing me out. Gosh, I just think head coach.
A lot of football that has to happen before we get to that.
A lot of beautiful football, by the way. I just think head coach Dan Campbell probably has Dallas circled on his calendar, so I'm really looking forward to that Week 6 matchup at Dallas. And it's a 4:25 kick. It's not, prime time.
Yeah.
It'll be. I know everyone's going to be looking at that game. It's going to be a big one.
I love the fact that you have 3 of your first 4 at home and 4 of your last 6 at home. So you start at home and you end at home.
And you hope the momentum goes into playoffs.
That's the key points. You grind the middle part of the season. You talked about it. That's when the bodies start to feel bad, but you want to get off to a good start, and you obviously want to end well, and you've got opportunities at home on both stages of the schedule.
Right.
I think Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are going to like that.
Yeah. Tim, let's talk a little bit more about the NFC North opponents. We won't see one until Week 7. That's against Minnesota. However, Detroit will get the first look at the very new Chicago Bears. They're going to look a lot different. Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze in that lineup.
Keenan Allen.
It's going to be a star-studded Chicago Bears. We'll see how it all plays out, but they'll see the Bears. Detroit will take on the Bears at home for Thanksgiving, and then about 3 weeks later, turn around and see them again, and then, of course, end the schedule with the Minnesota Vikings. Nothing shocking there. So this is NFC North. They're trending upwards. What are you anticipating for those matchups?
It's interesting because, to me, obviously Green Bay is right there. With Love and the weapons he has and the team, and they were obviously right there with Detroit last year. A playoff team. To me, there's a lot of unknown because is it going to be J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota? We obviously know it's going to be Caleb, but will Caleb struggle like most rookies do, or will he have a C.J. Stroud type season? So to me, there's a lot of unknown in the NFC North outside of obviously Detroit and Green Bay. How quickly can those young quarterbacks step in and help their teams win? I think Caleb's in a great situation because of some of the tools that you mentioned. But the other interesting part of the schedule as it relates to the NFC North too is when you look at it, we always look at those cold weather games, right? Those opportunities for it to be kind of nasty.
Cold in Chicago.
Week 16 in Chicago.
Rude.
Yeah, that could be one that is cold, kind of nasty. Chicago can just go ahead and build that new stadium with a dome on
Right
it
now.
sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But that'll be an interesting one. Obviously, there could be some weather implications with that one too, and an important NFC matchup that late in the season.
Let's talk about some AFC matchups that will be top of mind here come this season. Week 10, Houston Texans. We talked about it. That is Sunday Night Football. Typically where these Detroit Lions bye week would fall, they're going to be on the road taking on the Texans. And then Week 15 against the Buffalo Bills. That'll be a 4:25 kickoff time. Those are two big teams that are on the rise. We'll see what they have. What are you anticipating for those AFC matchups?
Yeah, obviously the Houston one will be huge, and I think there'll be a lot of national interest in that because I think it's two teams that, like we talked about earlier, kind of really up and coming, kind of newcomers to being an upper echelon team in this league. And obviously Buffalo is trying to get over that hump, right?
Yep.
And they just haven't been able to. Been a great regular season team, haven't been able to get over it in the playoffs. But I think too, when you start talking about AFC teams, obviously you're not familiar with that, right? You only play them every 4 years or so. You've got a stretch from week 8 to week 12 where you've got Tennessee at home, then you've got Green Bay, but then you've got Houston, Jacksonville, and Indianapolis. So 4 teams in a 5-game stretch that that puts a little bit more stress on your pre-scouting on some of it's not a familiar opponent. When you go play Green Bay, when you go play Chicago, you know those teams. You know their personnel, their schemes, what they are. I think the prep is a little bit less, but when you play those teams that are a little bit foreign to you, and you've got 4 AFC opponents in a 5-week stretch, I think that'll be interesting. Put a little pressure on the coaching staff to come up with something for an unfamiliar opponent.
All right, and then we can't forget about preseason. We know the opponents. It'll be at New York Giants, at Kansas City Chiefs, and then home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Giants, Steelers, those are not new faces to the Lions in preseason, but
we could see some joint practices, in there with New York. Nothing's been announced officially, but I think they kind of have alluded to the fact that
Reports,
maybe with the Giants. So we'll see if that develops with Kansas City. But yeah, preseason. Yeah, but I mean, I'm looking forward to the preseason this year. Guys like Hendon Hooker. Didn't get an opportunity to see him last year. Obviously, the young guys, but the preseason is time for those young guys. So I think it's it'll be fun this year. I think there's more storylines going into it this year.
Oh, there's a ton. All right, that wraps up everything. What a great! I'm happy about the schedule. Are you happy overall?
Yeah, I'm good. I like it.
We're happy. We like the schedule.
Nationally televised Detroit Lions.
Why not? It sounds good, and it sounds normal. Let's just say that. All right, for Tim Twentyman, I'm Dannie Rogers. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Detroit Lions schedule release show. It's going to be a great season. Hope everyone's along for the ride. We'll see you next time.